Punchinello, Volume 1, No. 26, the 24th of September, 1870 ***** Conant's patent binders for Punchinello, to preserve the paper for binding, will be sent post-paid, on receipt of $1, by Punchinello Publishing Co., 83 Nassau Street, New York City. Recommended by physicians. The best salve in use for all disorders of the skin, for cuts, burns, wounds, and used in hospitals. Sold by all druggists. Price 25 cents. John F. Henry, sole proprietor, No. 8 College Place, New York. Harrison Bradford & Co.'s Steel Pens. These pens are of a finer quality, more durable, and cheaper than any other pen in the market. Special attention is called to the following grades, as being better suited for business purposes than any pen manufactured. The 50522 and the anti-corrosive. We recommend for bank and office use. D. Appleton & Co., sole agents for United States. Punchinello Volume 1. Number 26. Saturday, the 24th of September, 1870. Published by the Punchinello Publishing Company, 83 Nassau Street, New York. The Mystery of Mr. E. Drood, by Orpheus C. Kerr, continued in this number. See 15th page for extra premiums. Bound Volume Number 1. The first volume of Punchinello, ending with number 26, the 24th of September, 1870, bound in fine cloth, will be ready for delivery on the 1st of October, 1870. Price $2.50. Sent post-paid to any part of the United States on receipt of price. A copy of the paper for 1 year, from the 1st of October, number 27, and the bound volume, the latter prepaid, will be sent to any subscriber for $5.50. 3 copies for 1 year, and 3 bound volumes, with an extra copy of bound volume, to any person sending us 3 subscriptions for $16.50. 1 copy of paper for 1 year, with a fine chromo premium, for $4 single copies, mailed free. 10 back numbers can always be supplied, as the paper is electrotyped. Book canvassers will find this volume a very saleable book. Orders supplied at a very liberal discount. All remittances should be made in post office orders. Canvassers wanted for the paper, everywhere. Address: Punchinello Publishing Company, 83 Nassau St., NY P.O. Box No. 2783. To newsdealers. Punchinello's Monthly. The weekly numbers for August, bound in a handsome cover, is now ready. Price, 50 cents. The trade supplied by the American News Company, who are now prepared to receive orders. Foster and Avril steam, lithograph, and letterpress printers, embossers, engravers, and label manufacturers. Sketches and estimates furnished upon application. 23 Platt Street and 20 to 22 Gold Street, New York. P.O. Box 2845. Foley's Gold Pens. The best and cheapest. 256 Broadway. Wevel and Hammer, Wood Engravers, 208 Broadway, New York. $2 to Albany and Troy. The Dayline Steamboats C. Vibert and Daniel Drew, commencing the 31st of May, will leave Vestry Street Pier at 8:45, and 34th St at 9 a.m., landing at Yonkers, Newark, and Tarrytown by ferryboat, Cozzens, West Point, Cornwall, Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Rhinebeck, Bristol, Catskill, Hudson, and New Baltimore. A special train of broad-gauge cars in connection with the day boats will leave on arrival at Albany, commencing the 20th of June, for Sharon Springs. Fare $4.25 from New York and for Cherry Valley. The steamboat Seneca will transfer passengers from Albany to Troy Bowling Green Savings Bank 33 Broadway, New York. Open every day from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Deposits of any sum, from 10 cents to $10,000 will be received. 6% interest, free of government tax interest on new deposits commences on the 1st of every month. Henry Smith, President Reeves E. Selms, Secretary. Walter Roche, Edward Hogan, Vice Presidents. Established 1866. J.A.S.R. Nichols, M.D.W.M. J. Rolfe. A.M. Editors, Boston Journal of Chemistry. Devoted to the science of home life, the arts, agriculture, and medicine. $1 per year. Journal and Punchinello, without premium. $4 send for specimen copy address, Journal of Chemistry, 150 Congress Street, Boston. News dealers. On railroads, steamboats, and at watering places, will find the monthly numbers of Punchinello for April, May, June, and July, an attractive and saleable work. Single copies price 50 CTS. For trade price address American News Company, or Punchinello Publishing & Co., 83 Nassau Street. Henry L. Stevens, Artist, No. 160 Fulton Street, New York. Geo. B. Boland, Draftsman and Designer, No. 160 Fulton Street, Room No. 11, New York. Entered, according to Act of Congress, in the year 1870, by the Punchinello Publishing Company, in the Clerk's Office of the District Court of the United States, for the Southern District of New York. The Mystery of Mr. E. Drood. An adaptation. By Orpheus C. Kerr, Chapter 19. The H&H of J. Bumstead. The exquisitely sweet month of the perfectly delicious summer vacation having come, Miss Carruthers' young ladies have returned again, for a time, to their respective homes. Magnolia Pendragon has gone to the city and her brother, and Flora Potts is ridiculously and absurdly alone. Under the ardent sun of August, Bumsteadville slowly bakes, like an ogre's family dish of stuffed cottages and greens, with here and there some slowly moving object, like a loose vegetable on a sluggish current of tidal gravy, and the spire of the ritualistic church shooting up at one end like an incorrigibly perpendicular leg of magnified mutton. Hotter and hotter comes the breath fiery of nature's cookery, until some of the stuffing boils out of one cottage, in the shape of the oldest inhabitant, who makes his usual annual remark, that this is the warmest day in 98 years, and then simmers away to some cooler nook amongst the greens. More and more intolerably quivers the atmosphere of the sylvan oven with stifling fervency, until there oozes from beneath the shingled crust of a vegetarian country boarding house a parboiled guest from the city, who, believing himself almost ready to turn, drifts feebly to where the roads fork and there is a shade more done, while, to the speculative mind, each glowing field of corn, or buckwheat, is an incipient meal, and each chimney, or barn, a mere temptation to guess how many swallows there may be in it. Upon the afternoon of such a day as this, Miss Potts is informed, by a servant, that Mr. Bumstead has arrived, and, sending her his love, would be pleased to have her come downstairs to him and bring him a fan. "Why didn't you tell him I wasn't at home, you absurd thing?" cries the young girl, hurriedly practicing a series of agitated looks and pensive smiles before her mirror. "So I did, miss," answers the attached menial, "but he'd seen you looking at him with an opera glass as he came up the path, and said that he could hear you taking a clean handkerchief out of the drawer, on purpose to receive him with, before he'd got to the door. Oh, what shall I do? My hands are so red today," sighs Filco, holding her arms above her head, that the blood may retire from the two pinkish members. After a pause, and an adjustment of a curl over her right eye and the scarf at her waist, to make them look innocent, she yields to the meteorological mania so strikingly prevalent amongst all the other characters of this narrative, and says that she will receive the visitor in the yard, near the pump. Then, casting carelessly over her shoulder that web-like shawl without which no woman nor spider is complete, she arranges her lips in the glass for the last time, and, with a garden hat hanging from the elbow latest singed, goes down, humming unsuspiciously, into the open air, with the guileless bearing of one wholly unprepared for company. Resting an elbow upon a low iron patent pump, near a rustic seat, the ritualistic organist, in his vast linen coat and imposing straw hat, looks not unlike an eccentric garden statue, upon which some prudish slave of modern conventionalities has placed the summer attire of a Western editor. The great heat of the sun upon his back makes him irritable, and when Miss Potts sharply smites with her fan the knuckles of the hand which he has affably extended to take her by the chin, more than the usual symptoms of acute inflammation appear at the end of his nose, and he blows hurriedly upon his wounded digits. "That hurt like the mischief," he remarks, in some anger. "I don't know when I've felt anything smart so." "Then don't be so horrid," returns the pensive girl, taking a seat before him upon the rustic settee, and abstractedly arranging her dress so that only 2/3 of a gaiter boot can be seen. Munching cloves, the aroma of which ladens the air all around him, Mr. Bumstead contemplates her with a calmness which would be enthralling, but for the nervous twisting of his features under the torments of a singularly adhesive fly. I have come, dear, he observes, slowly, to know how soon you will be ready for me to give you your next music lesson. I prefer that you would not call me your dear, was the chilling answer. The organist thinks for a moment, and then nods his head intelligently. You are right, he says, gravely, there might be somebody listening who could not enter into our real feelings. And now, how about those music lessons? I don't want any more, thank you, says Flora, coldly. While we are all in mourning for our poor, dear absurd Eddie, it seems like a perfectly ridiculous mockery to be practicing the scales. Fanning himself with his straw hat, Mr. Bumstead shakes his bushy head several times. You do not discriminate sufficiently, he replies. There are kinds of music which, when performed rapidly upon the violin, fife, or kettle drum, certainly fill the mind with sentiments unfavorable to the deeper anguish of human sorrow. Of such, however, is not the kind made by young girls, which is at all times a help to the intensity of judicious grief. Let me assure you, with the candor of an idolized friend, that some of the saddest hours of my life have been spent in teaching you to try to sing a humorous aria from Donizetti, and the moments in which I have most sincerely regretted ever having been born were those in which you have played, in my hearing, the drinking song from La Traviata. Believe me, then, my devoted pupil, there can be nothing at all inconsistent with a prevalence of profound melancholy in your continued piano playing, whereas, on the contrary, your sudden and permanent cessation might at least surprise your friends and the neighborhood into a light-heartedness temporarily oblivious of the memory of that dear, missing boy, to whom you could not, I hear, give the love already bestowed upon me. I loved him ridiculously, absurdly, with my whole heart, cries Flora, not altogether liking what she has heard. I'm real sorry, too, that they think somebody has killed him. Mr. Bumstead folds his brown linen arms as he towers before her, and the dark circles around his eyes appear to shrink with the intensify of his gaze. There are occasions in life, he remarks, when to acknowledge that our last meeting with a friend, who has since mysteriously disappeared, was to reject him and imply a preference for his uncle, may be calculated to associate us unpleasantly with that disappearance, in the minds of the censorious, and invite suspicions tending to our early cross-examination by our Irish local magistrate. I do not say, of course, that you actually destroyed my nephew for fear he should try to prejudice me against you, but I cannot withhold my earnest approval of your judicious pretense of a sentiment palpably incompatible with the shedding of the blood of its departed object. If you will move your dress a little, so that I can sit beside you and allow your head to rest upon my shoulder, that fan will do for both of us, and we may converse in whispers. My head upon your shoulder, exclaims Miss Potts, staring swiftly about to see if anybody is looking. I prefer to keep my head upon my own shoulders, sir. Two heads are better than one, the ritualistic organist reminds her. If a little hair oil and powder does come off upon my coat, the latter will wash, I suppose. Come, dearest, if it is our fate to never get through this hot day alive, let us be sunstruck together. She shrinks timidly from the brown linen arm which he begins insinuating along the back of the rustic settee, and tells him that she couldn't have believed that he could be so absurd. He draws back his arm, and seems hurt. "Flora," he says, tenderly, "how beautiful you are, especially when fixed up. The more I see of yon, the less sorry I am that I have concluded to be yours. All the time that my dear boy was trying to induce you to release him from his engagement, I was thinking how much better you might do, yet, beyond an occasional encouraging wink, I never gave the least sign of reciprocating your attachment. I did not think it would be right. The assertion, though superficially true, is so imperfect in its delineation of habitual conduct liable to another construction, that the agitated flower pot returns, with quick indignation. Your arm was always reaching out whenever you sat in a chair anywhere near me, and whenever I sang you always kept looking straight into my mouth until it tickled me. You know you did, you hateful thing. Besides, it wasn't you that I preferred, at all, it was, oh, it's too ridiculous to tell." In her bashful confusion she is about to arise and trip shyly away from him into the house, when he speaks again. "Miss Potts, is your friendship for Miss Pendragon and her brother such, that their execution upon some Friday of next month would be a spectacle to which you could give no pleased attention?" "What do you mean, you absurd creature?" "I mean," continues Mr. Bumstead, "simply this: you know my double loss. You know that, upon the person of the male Pendragon was found an apple looking and tasting like one which my nephew once had. You know, that when Miss Pendragon went from here she wore an alpaca waist which looked as though it had been exposed more than once to the rain. See the point?" Flora gives a startled look, and says, "I don't see it." "Suppose," he goes on, "suppose that I go to a magistrate, and say, 'Judge, I voted for you, and can influence a large foreign vote for you again. I have lost a nephew who was very fond of apples, and a black alpaca umbrella of great value. A young Southerner, who has not lived in this state long enough to vote, has been found in possession of an apple singularly like the kind generally eaten by my missing relative, and his sister has come out in a waist made of second-hand alpaca. See the point now?" "Mr. Bumstead," exclaims Flora, affrighted by the terrible menace of his manner, "I don't any more believe that Mr. Pendragon is guilty than I, myself, am, and as for your old umbrella—" "Stop, woman," interrupted the bereaved organist, imperiously. "Not even your lips shall speak disrespectfully of my lost bone-handled friend. By a chain of unanswerable argument, I have shown you that I hold the fate of your Southern acquaintances in my hands, and shall be particularly sorry if you force me to hang Mr. Pendragon as a rival." Flora puts her hands to her temples, to soothe her throbbing head and display a bracelet. "Oh, what shall I do? I don't want anybody to be hung. It must be so perfectly awful." Her touching display of generous feeling does not soften him. On the contrary, he stands more erect, and smiles rather triumphantly under his straw hat. "Beloved one," he murmurs, in a rich voice, I find that I cannot induce you to make the first advance toward the mutual avowal we are both longing for, and must therefore precipitate our happiness myself. My poor boy would not have given you perfect satisfaction, and your momentary liking for the male Pendragon was but the effect of a temporary despair undoubtedly produced by my seeming coldness. That coldness had nothing to do with my heart, but resulted partially from my habit of wearing a wet towel on my head. I now propose to you, propose to me, ejaculates Miss Potts, with heightened color. That you pick out a worthy man belonging to your own section of the Union, he continues hastily. Here's my heart, he adds, going through the motions of taking something from a pocket and placing it in his outstretched palm, and here's my hand, placing therein an equally imaginary object from another pocket. Try the H&H of J. Bumstead. His manner is as though he were commending some patent article of unquestionable utility. But I can't bear the sight of you, she cries, pushing away the brown linen arm coming after her again. Taking away her fan, he pats her on the head with it, and seems momentarily surprised at the hollow sound. Future Mrs. Bumstead, he cheerfully replies, at last, my observation and knowledge of the women of America teach me that there never was a wife going to Indiana for a divorce, who had not at first sworn to love, as well as honor and obey, her husband. Such is woman that if she had felt and said at the altar that she couldn't bear the sight of him, it wouldn't have been in the power of masculine brutality and dissipated habits to drive her from his side through all their lives. There can be no better sign of our future happiness than for you to say, beforehand, that you utterly detest the man of your choice. There is something terrible to the young girl in the original turn of thought of this fascinating man. Say what she may, he at once turns it into virtual devotion to himself. He appears to have a perfectly dreadful power to hang everybody. He considers her strongest avowal of present personal dislike the most promising indication she can give of eternal future infatuation with him, and his powerful mode of reasoning is more profound and composing than an article in a New York newspaper on a war in Europe. Rendered dizzy by his metaphysical conversation, she arises from the rustic seat, and is flying giddily into the house, when he leaps athletically after her, and catches her in the doorway. I merely wish to request, he says, quietly, that you place sufficient restraint upon your naturally happy feelings to keep our engagement a secret from the public at present, as I can't bear to have boys calling out after me, there's the fella that's going to get married. There's the fella that's going to get married. When a man is about to make a fool of himself, it is not for children to remind him of it. The door being opened before she can answer, Flora receives a parting bow of Grandisonian elegance from Mr. Bumstead, and hastens upstairs to her room in a distraction of mind not uncommon to those having conversational relations with the ritualistic organist. To be continued. A good fight. We presume that all the Boston people lecture at times, at any rate they could, if they wanted to. No one doubts their ability. But, let the number of these imparters of information be ever so great, we have reason to doubt whether any other of these accomplished parties has grappled with so formidable, so tremendous a subject, as that which is now exciting the powerful mind of Miss Lillian Edgarton. She is going to do it, though. If her life is spared, and her constitution remains free from blight, both of which felicities we trust will be hers, that subject has got to come under. That all may know how great is the task, and the confidence required to pitch into it, we announce, with a flourish, that Miss Ellie is about to attack that well-known saurian monster, termed gossip. Considered as a disease, she proposes to find the cause and the cure. Considered as a living and gigantic nuisance, by far surpassing any dragon described by Spencer, she designs to hunt him out and slay him incontinently. Courage, fair knight! Our eldest son is kept in reserve for some such heroine. If you would be famous, if you would make a perfect thing of this crusade, if you would render the lives of your fellow mortals longer and happier, if you would win that noble and ingenuous youth, our son, go in vehemently. And, while you are about it, Lillian, would you object to giving your attention to certain relations of the monster which you propose to slay? We name them, detraction and calumny. They are tough old dragons. Now, we tell you, perhaps it were best to fight shy of them. We have it, Lillian. Leave them to us. Us, with a big U. You kill little gossip, and see how quick his brothers and sisters will fall, before our mighty battle axe. And so they will fall, sure enough. But it will be simply because when our dear young knight, Ellie, has killed her dragon, she will have wiped out the whole brood. They can't live without their sweet and attractive little sister. And so, like many a bigger humbug, we shall take great credit, that belongs to somebody else, and assume to have done big things, at enormous expense of blood and money. Trust us, for that. Napoleon III at Sedan. September, 1870. I was an emperor. Voilà c'est bon. Bazaine, MacMahon, fought, 'twas my affair. Only, to please my doctor, Nealayton, I left the throne, to take a sedan chair. Unlimited liability. Veritas writes to say that as he was crossing the ferry from Wall Street to Brooklyn, yesterday afternoon, he counted 117 persons reading Punchinello. He did not observe a single copy of The Sun on board, until the boat neared Brooklyn, when a man of squalid appearance produced from a dirty newspaper some soiled articles, all of which seemed to have been steeped in lye, from contact with the sheet, which proved to be the Sun. A con for the 9th. What is there in common between Colonel Fisk's warhorse and a New York ice company? Both are tremendous chargers. The plays and shows. Ere I am again, back from the seashore, to find the theatres opening, the war closing, and Greeley burning to imitate the late French Emperor, by leading the Republican hosts to defeat in the fall campaign, so as to be in a position to write to the Germanically named Hoffman, as I cannot fall, ballot in hand, at the head of my repeaters, I surrender to your victorious excellency. Being back, I went to see Julius Caesar at Niblo's garden. It was the day when the French Caesar fell, and the impertinent soothsayer, Rochefort, who had so often advised him to beware, not of the Ides of March, but of the Ides Napoleoniennes, there is a feeble attempt at a pun here, obtained his liberty, and the right to assail in his newspaper the virtue of every female relative of the imperial family. Of course I know that Julius Caesar was not a Frenchman, for the modesty of his commentaries is proverbial, and that Shakespeare never so much as heard of the man of December. Nevertheless, the two Caesars were inextricably mixed up in my mind. I know that 2 or 3 editorial persons who sat close by me were continually talking of Napoleon, and I may possibly have confounded their remarks with those of the actors. Still I could not divest myself of the impression that I was sometimes in Paris and sometimes in Rome, and that the sepulchral voice of Mr. Theodore Hamilton was more often that of Napoleon than that of Julius. The play presents itself to my recollection in the following shape. As I said before, it was represented at the very moment that the French Republicans, being satisfied with the bees in their respective bonnets, were obliterating the imperial bees from the doors of the Tuileries, and being anxious to take arms against a sea of Prussians, were taking down the imperial arms wherever they could find them. Remembering this, the reader will be able to account for any slight difference in text between my Julius Caesar, and that of the respectable and able Mr. Shakespeare. Act I. Enter various Irish Roman citizens, flourishing the shillelaghs of the period. 1 St. Citizen. Here's a row. Great Caesar is going to march to Berlin. Hooray for the Emperor. 1 St. Editorial person. I grant you he was popular when the war began, but today the people despise him. Cassius. I hate this Caesar. Once he tried to swim across the British Channel with a tame eagle on his shoulder, and couldn't do it. When he is sick he takes antibilious pills, like any other man. Obviously he don't deserve to live. Casca. Who is fat enough to know better, and not pretend to be discontented. Let's kill him and break all the glass in the windows of Paris. Brutus. My friend, those who live in stone houses should never throw glass about. I don't mean anything by this, but it sounds oracular, and will make people think I am a profound philosopher. Editorial person. What I say is this. He, Caesar, governed the Roman rabble vastly better than they deserved. His only mistakes were, in not sending Cassius, who was a sort of Rochefort, without Rochefort's cowardice, to the galleys, and in not sending Brutus as minister to some capital so dreary that he would have shot himself as soon as he reached his destination. Act II. Enter Brutus and fellow radicals. Brutus. I have no complaint against Caesar, and I therefore gladly join your noble band of assassins. We will kill him and establish a provisional government with myself at its head. Caesar is ambitious, and I hate ambition. All I want is to be the ruler of Rome. Cassius. Come, my brave fellows. Haste to the stabbing. Away. Away. Editorial person. What a farce is history. Here are Publicook, Brutus and John Wilkes Cassius held up as models of excellence and integrity. What did they and their fellow scoundrels do after they had killed Caesar, but desolate their country with civil war? Act 3. Enter assassins headed by Brutus and Gamator, Cassius and Rochefort. Cassius. Here is Caesar with his back toward us, fighting the Germans' hordes. Let us steal up and stab him before he can help himself. They stab him. Cassius. Now we will kick his wife out of Paris and smash his furniture. We will all become a provisional government, and fix everything to suit ourselves. I will revive my newspaper, and hire a staff from the New York Sun, who will make it more scurrilous than ever. Enter the Parisian populace crying, "Hooray for Caesar!" Cassius. Hush. Caesar is dead, and we are going to proclaim a republic. Begin and abuse him with all your might. We'll let you smash some windows presently. Populace. Hooray! The tyrant has fallen. Let's go and insult his wife and smash everything generally. 1st editorial person. Yesterday these precious rascals voted for him. Today they insult him, it being safe to do so, and tomorrow they will want him back again. 2nd editorial person. There lies the ruins of the noblest nephew of his uncle that ever lived in France or elsewhere. He was unscrupulous, I admit, but he knew how to rule. Shall we stay and hear Mark Antony praise him, and set the fickle rabble at the throats of Rochefort and Brutus, and their gang? 1st editorial person. That will take place very shortly, but I can't wait for it. I must go home to write an editorial welcoming the new republic, and prophesying all manner of success for it. The American people like that sort of trash, though they have already twice seen the French try republican institutions only to make a muddle of them. 2nd editorial person. What do you think of the actors here at Niblo's? 1st editorial person. Davenport is good but heavy, Barrett rants like a raving French radical. Montgomery is excellent, and the rest are so-so. And the undersigned, having seen the French Revolution played on the Roman stage at Niblo's, also went home without waiting to see the prophetic 4th and 5th acts, in which the conspirators come to grief, and the empire is re-established. We shall read all about it in the cable dispatches a few months hence. Good heavens! Who can listen calmly to the speeches of the players, while the grandest drama of the century is acting across the sea, where a mad populace, freed from the firm grasp of its master, breaks windows and howls itself hoarse as the best preparations for holding the fairest of cities against the resistless veterans of von Moltke? Matador. Insurrectionary. Punchinello, pondering over the vast sums that have been forwarded to Cuba, in aid of the insurrectionary movements there, and struck with the disadvantages under which the promoters of liberty labor in that sunny isle, blesses his stars that, Thanks to the enterprise of Miss Susan B. Anthony, he can raise a revolution in New York City, at any time, for 10 cents. Let those whom it may concern take heed. Bluff King Bill. LN declared his determination to kick old King Billy, of Prussia, off from French territory. Well, it would only have been a new illustration of footing the bill. Query. As soon as the abominable fat-boiling nuisances have been abolished, will it be right to say that they have fallen into desuetude? A seasonable conundrum. Why is New York City like the ex-emperor of the French? Because it has just got rid of its census. A suggestion. In consideration of the splendid jewels worn by him, might not Colonel Jim Fisk be more appropriately called Colonel Jem Fisk? The Spirit of the War. A Sketch in the Bowery. Small Frenchman. What for you hit me with your damn baby when you pass? Big German. Wants to fight, dinks you can whip me, eh? Small Frenchman. No, but I can give your damn baby one black eye. By George. Lake George, the 30th of August. Dear Punchinello : I arrived here last Saturday, and as I would be the last person to allow a commendable enterprise to languish for want of proper encouragement, and in order to put the hotel proprietors out of suspense, I thought I would let you know without further delay that I consider Lake George a success. Not being expected, as I supposed, I must admit I was somewhat gratified to find a full band playing on the veranda as the coach I was in drove up. It was a sort of delicate attention, you know. I notice, however, that they continue playing in the afternoons since then. I suppose it struck them as a good idea at the time. The Fort William Henry Hotel is a gorgeous affair in every respect. It is situated very near the old original fort, just where the French troops advanced to capture it, and made their celebrated charges. Perhaps the present proprietor can't discount them at that sort of thing. Perhaps not. Looking over one's bills reminds you a good deal of the police courts. $5 fine, $25 costs. The costs they make here are very good, however, although they do put a little too much mint in them, I must say. LG is all right, though. It is supplied with all the modern conveniences. It isn't within 5 minutes' walk of the post office, but its water conveniences are apparent to all. There is no end to its bells, and as for its ranges, it has 2 of them, both Adirondacks. Yesterday I took a trip up the lake and across to its neighbor, Champlain. Everybody takes this trip because it's the thing and it is therefore particularly necessary to take it. Ostensibly, you go to view the scenery, really, to be inveigled into paying for a low comedy of a dinner at the other end. The first place our boat stopped at is called the Trout Pavilion principally, so far as I can learn, on account of the immense number of pickerel caught there, and from the fact that it is unquestionably a good site for a pavilion whenever the esteemed proprietor turns up jacks enough, at his favorite game, to build one. The next place was set down in the guidebook as the Three Sisters Islands, an appellation arising from the fact that there are precisely 4 of them, I mentioned this apparent discrepancy to the boat clerk. This young man, who belongs to a baseball club, informs me that these islands invariably traveled with a substitute as one occasionally got soaked. This certainly seems a little curious, but as the young man says he was born here, I suppose he knows. This same young man pointed out a beautiful spot called Green Island and asked me if I wouldn't like to live there. He said he thought it would just suit me. The attention of these people is really delightful. Some of these places, however, have very inappropriate names. For instance, another little gem is called Hog Island. No one knows why it was so called. The clerk of the boat don't either. He wanted to know if I had ever dined there. I always make it a point to get on the right side of these steamboat fellows, always. About halfway up the lake is a place called Tongue Mountain. A long time ago a colony of strong-minded women settled there. That may have had something to do with its name. Nobody ever goes there now. People go very near the mountain in boats, however, as it is noted for something very extraordinary in the echo line. It has what is called a double echo. I fully expected something of this kind. Now if there is anything I am particularly down on, it is those unmitigated frauds known as echoes. And if I ever throw 4 sixes, it is when I am tackling some unsuspecting old ass of a watering place echo. I consider them hollow mockeries. Of course we steamed within proper distance, and I seized the opportunity to put a head on this venerable 2-ply nuisance, as follows. First, I read a page of a patent office report I go armed with. This the echo, with very little hesitation, repeated in duplicate as usual. From one side of the rock in English, and from the other in fair French. I saw at once that old EK was pretty well filled. Next I sang "Listen to the Mockingbird," which it repeated very creditably indeed, dropping but 2 notes on the 3rd verse. This it made up for, I am bound to admit, by throwing in some original variations in the chorus. But I hadn't played from my sleeve yet, so I recited Hamlet's soliloquy. From the wooded slope on our right came the familiar "To be of Booth," while from the sloping woods on our left proceeded a finely rendered imitation of the Teutonic fecta, in the same. This staggered me. I had one more jack in my cuff, however. I pulled out a copy of the Tribune and read a few paragraphs of Greeley's "What Do I Know About Farming?" That settled him. He never got to the first semicolon. It knocked the breath right out of him. The poor old fossil had to quit. He changed his repeater to a lever. But then you see he had held the office a good while. He hasn't left the business to anyone, either. In future no one will go fooling round there except the fishermen. The sign is down. In my next I will finish the lake trip, and give you some account of the celebrated Rogers Slide. Saginaw Dodd. To be continued. Ramblings. By Mose Skinner. Popularity. Next to talk, popularity is the cheapest thing I know of. It is achieved by 3 classes: those who have brains, those who have money, and those who have neither. The first earn it, the second buy it, and the third stumble into it, perhaps by waving their hat at an engineer just in time to prevent the train from dashing over a precipice, or by chopping off somebody's head with a meat axe and burning the remains up afterwards, in which case the next day's paper gives a faithful account of their pedigree, and their photograph can be purchased at any respectable newsdealer's, at a price within reach of all. The most commonplace sayings of popular men are handed down to posterity, and a casual remark about the weather is often framed and hung up in the spare bedroom. It behooves every public man to keep a sentence or two on hand, with a view to embalming them for future reference. I wish to state, in confidence, that if any prominent man who can't think of anything that sounds well, will address me, I will furnish him at the low price of $1 a sentence. My stock is entirely fresh and original, and embraces such gems as, "Don't give up the ship, such is life, how's this for high? I die happy, a stitch in time saves 9 and C. I am also prepared to furnish last words of eminent men at a moderate compensation. General Grant has taken time by the forelock in this matter. His "Let us have peace" was a most brilliant effort, because nobody ever thought of it before. I propose to move on your works immediately, if it takes all summer, was also a happy thought. When General Grant was in Boston, he said he liked the way they made gravy in Massachusetts. Now this in itself would not, perhaps, be called deep, because others have said the same thing before, but, coming from a man like Grant, it set folks to thinking, and it is not surprising that something of this sort went the rounds. We have the best authority for stating that General Grant, during his recent visit to Boston, remarked that he was gratified at the manner in which gravy was produced in Massachusetts. Our talented chief magistrate is a man of few words, but what he does say is spicy, and to the point. At the Peace Jubilee, Grant said he liked the cannon best, but the reporters, being confidentially informed that the remark wasn't intended for posterity, it didn't get out much. I didn't hear of his saying anything else. If a popular man takes cold, the whole public sneeze. His opinions must go into the papers anyhow, though perhaps no better than anybody's else. Thus, from a daily paper, the Honorable Montgomery Blair recently said in a private conversation, that the present war would probably end in victory for the Prussians, and the overthrow of Napoleon. Supposing he did. I heard John Smith say the same thing in an eating saloon over a month ago, and out of 20 gentlemen present, 4 were reporters, but they didn't take out their notebooks in breathless haste and put down the Honorable John Smith's opinion. How Mr. Smith looked when he said it, and if he said it as though he really meant it, and in a manner that thrilled his listeners. But John hasn't any popularity, you see, and the Honorable Montgomery has, though it may be a little mildewed. Soon after the war, I wrote an article on the Alabama claims. It was a masterly effort, and cost me a month's salary to get it inserted in a popular magazine. If that article had proved a success, I could easily have gulled the public all my life on the popularity thus achieved. But I made a wretched mistake to start with. Instead of heading it "The Alabama Claims by Charles Sumner or Horace Greeley." I said by Mose Skinner. I will not dwell on the result. Suffice it to say that I soon after retired from literature, a changed being, utterly devoid of hope. Moral suasion. A friend of mine, an eminent New York philanthropist, relates the following interview with a condemned criminal. The crime for which this wretched man was hung is still fresh in our memories. One morning at breakfast his tripe didn't suit him, and he immediately brained his wife and children and set the house on fire, varying the monotony of the scene by pitching his mother-in-law down the well, having previously, with great consideration, touched her heart with a cheese knife. I will now quote my friend's own words. He was pronounced a hard case, manifesting no sorrow for his act, and utterly indifferent to his approaching doom. A score of good people had visited him with the kindest intentions, but without making the smallest impression upon him. Without boasting, I wish to say that I knew I could touch this man's heart. I saw a play once in which the most bloodthirsty and brutal ruffian that ever existed was melted to tears at the mention of his mother's name, and childhood's happy hours, and everybody knows that what happens on the stage happens just the same in real life. I naturally congratulated myself on having seen this play, for it gave me power to cope with this relentless disposition. He resisted all attempts at conversation, however, in the most dogged manner, barely returning surly monosyllables to my anxious wishes for his well-being. At last, laying my hand on his shoulder, and throwing considerable pathos into my voice, I said, "My friend, it was not always thus with you. There was a time when you sat upon your mother's knee, and gathered buttercups and daisies." Ah! I had touched the right chord at last. His brow contracted and his lips twitched convulsively. "And when that mother put you in your little bed," I continued, "she kissed you, and hoped you would grow up you lie," said he. "She didn't. The old woman was 6 foot underground afore I could chaw. Now, look a here, you're the 4th chap that's tried the mother dodge on me. Why don't you fellas," he added with a malicious grin, "go back on the mother business, and give the old man a chance, just for a change?" After the above scurvy treatment I was naturally anxious to witness the man's funeral, which I understood was to be a gorgeous affair, 6 respectably attired females having been sworn in to kiss the body, amid the hysteric weeps of 3 more in the background. Practical. Housewife. "Vacuum up, Hans. Here's another Prussian victory." Hans, dreamily. "Another Prussian victory, then let us have another Prussian beer. Hot and cold." The sensational paragraph writers had better let up on the question of an imminent dearth of ice. There is no real probability that we shall be without ice before winter sets in. It is only for the purpose of keeping us in hot water that the newspaper men say we shan't have cold water. Not just yet. Mr. Greeley. Pray, take a seat, Mr. Woodford, I wouldn't on any account deprive you, etc., etc. Mr. Woodford. No. No, take it yourself, Mr. Greeley. The last thing I should think of would be etc., etc. Governor Hoffman. Don't trouble yourselves, gentlemen, I shall probably continue to occupy the chair for a couple of years, yet. Comic Zoology. Genus, Phoca. The seal. This is the common name of the inoffensive and fur-bearing members of the Phocidae family. The word seal is derived, radically, from the German Ziegel, so that to say a man has fought mit Ziegel is equivalent to remarking that he has assailed a harmless and timid seal. The Phocidae, without distinction of sex, are known as mammifers, although it would manifestly be more correct to call the males papifers. Under the present classification, the confusion of genders necessarily engenders confusion. Unless Agassiz is gassing us, the true seal has no sign of an ear, wherefore the deafening roar of the surf in which it delights to sport is probably no inconvenience to it. As distinguished from dumb beasts in general, it may properly be called a deaf and dumb animal. The false seal, on the contrary, has as true an ear as e'er was seen. To the counterfeits belong the sea lion, the main specimen of the tribe in the Arctic Sea, and the sea leopard, which seems to be focalized in the Antarctic Circle. All the varieties of the seal seek concealment in caverns, and their hides are much sought after. Sealing was at one time chiefly monopolized by adventurous New Englanders, who combined the pursuit with whaling, but at present the sealers of Salt Lake bear off the palm from all competitors, both as regards numbers and hardihood. Whether they combine whaling with sealing is not positively known, but probably they do. Such is the universal passion for sealing among the people of that region, that the old men act like young men when engaged in this exciting occupation. The Phocidae appear to have attracted the attention of mankind at a very early period, seals being frequently spoken of in the scriptures. Saint John witnessed the opening of no less than 7 varieties, and must have been well acquainted with their internal structure. The earless, or true species, are often seen in considerable numbers on the British coast, and the Great Seal of England, only to be found in the vicinity of the Thames, is of such remarkable size and weight, that it never makes its appearance without producing a strong impression. The green seal, a much admired variety, is peculiar to Madeira, and seals of various colors are often seen in close proximity to the British ports, the number taken off Cork being prodigious. None of the animals of the Phoca genus are tenacious of life. They may readily be destroyed with sealing wax. A large stick properly applied has been known to seal the fate of a dozen in the space of half an hour. Cain knocked them over without difficulty, and they never attempt to defend themselves, according to Paine. In conclusion, it may be remarked that immense herds of seals cover the coasts of Alaska. It is nevertheless difficult to catch a glimpse of them, on account of the enormous flocks of hummingbirds, which darken the air in that genial clime. Occasionally, however, the Arctic zephyrs disperse the feathery cloud, and then vast numbers of the timid creatures, with a sprinkling of the walrus, may be seen by looking in a ward direction. A little acknowledgement. The Free and Easy Press has honored Punchinello with a brief as well as premature obituary paragraph. Flattered as he is by being thus noticed in the columns of a journal of the long-standing and well-sustained popularity of the Free and Easy Press, it pains Punchinello to be obliged to state that he still lives, and that he is not only alive, but kicking. That he has come to an end, is true, but it is to the end of his first volume, as the F and E Press can see by turning to the admirably written, dashing, humorous, and absolutely unsurpassable index appended to our present number, which index Punchinello cordially recommends to the perusal of the F and E Press. The preface to his second volume, however, which is now in preparation, will, Punchinello confidently assures the F and E Press, be altogether superior to the index to his first. Let the F and E Press look out for it. But, meanwhile, the F and E Press can cheer itself by frequent contemplation of the entertaining personage who serves as tailpiece to the index, and whose gesture is of that familiar and suggestive kind that will doubtless be thoroughly understood by the F and E Press, and, as Punchinello hopes, fully appreciated. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And he had fallen among the Prussians, only, mightn't have been so bad for him, but, as he also fell upon French bayonets, is quite certain that he can never get up again. Hiram Green in Wall Street. His celebrated speech before the Board or Brokers. A few words of sound advice from the squire. During a brief sojourn in the Emperor's City, a deputation of Wall Street brokers and smashers called and invited me to make a speech afore the members of their church, whose synagogue is situated in Broad Street. Thinks I, if I can make these infatuated worshippers of the golden calf, Mammon, see the error of their ways and take a back track, methunk my chances for the White House would be full as flattering as sisters would Yull, Georgiana Francis Train, or any other woman, in 72. Laying off my duster, and adjusting my spectacles, at the appointed hour, I slung the following extemporaneous remarks at my infatuated friends and government bondmen, as an ex-statesman which has served his country for 4 years as Justice of the Peace, raises edifice to a higher standard than usual, to say nothing about raising an interesting family of 11 moral and highly intellectual children, I rise and git up, untrammeled by any political alliances, to say, that when you fellas git on a mussy fit, like the old woman who undertook to pick her chickens by running them through a patent hash cutter, you make the feathers fly, and leave your victims in a highly clawed-up state. Professor Archimedes, of Oxford, and here allow me to stay, so as to avoid newspaper controversy, as in the case of Disraeli's novel Lothair, I have no reference to T. Goldwin Smith whatsoever, as I believe Archimedes is now dead, said he could raise the whole earth with a top section of a rail fence, if he could only find something tangible to rest his timber on. My friends, that man had never heard of Wall Street, and I'd a bet all the money I can borrow on it. With such a prop as this little territory, where games of chance are entered into according to the Act of Congress, to quote from a familiar passage in every printed copy of Punchinello, the professor could have raised this little hemisphere quicker than any of you chaps can gobble up a greenhorn. And, sirs, I'm sorry to be obliged to speak plain, it would be a darned sight more to your credit if you'd try and raise the earth, instead of daily usin' Wall Street as a base of operations to raise well, excuse me, the future asylum for retired brokers. How do you manage, when you want to make a stake? You run up stocks and produce a crisis. Outsiders rush in lickety-smash, and invest all the money they can rake and scrape, in these inflated stocks. Suddenly you prick the bubble, when, alas! Besides the crisis, there's more crybubs in and about Wall Street than there was in Egypt, when Napoleon Bonaparte chopped off the heads off all the firstborn. Instances have been known, where a good many of you chaps have rammed your head in the tiger's mouth once too often. If my memory serves me correctly, Fisk and Gould made you perambulate off on your eyebrows, last fall, and while the aforesaid tigers walked off with the seats of your trousaloons in their teeth, you all ginned in the following hymn: Wall Street is all a fleetin' show, from which lame ducks are driven, up in a balloon they allers go, to Tophet, not to heaven. Another little dodge of your my misguided friends, is to keel off K. Vanderbilt. What did you do t'other day? Why, when Cornelius was engaged in a friendly game of cards for keeps, up at Saratoga, some poor deluded monomaniac telegraphs that the Commodore had at last found his match, and had been gathered to his fathers. While at the bottom of the dispatch was forged the name of my friend, Kislyberg, city editor of the Troy Times, who, up to the present time, if this coot knows herself, hain't he been into the highway robbin' business, not by a long shot. But, my friends and fellow citizens, old Van is sharper than a two-edged gimlet. When he lays down his wallet among a lot of other calf skins, like a great sponge in a puddle of water, it sucks every square inch of legal tender, which is in sucking distance. For a regular 40 horsepower suction, K. Vanderbilt is your man. I once thought I could never take a locker to this honest old heart, but as I cast my gaze over this audience, and observe among the bulls and bears, a couple of deers, I will retract that, paying in the following due d'esprit, come rest on this bosom, oh beautiful broker, with your arms clinching tight, this innocent choker. I'll stand it from thee, if you'll never go near the bulls and the bears, when Hiram is here. This impromptu poeticism, Mr. Punchinello, kicked up quite a little breeze, in the midst of which the pretty brokers blushed and looked so bewitching-like, that it was enough to make a fella throw stuns at K. Vanderbilt if the pretty dears only wanted him to. I again resumed, my infatuated friends, afore I wind up, let me give you a few parting words of advice. Give up this gambling business. When you run up gold it hits the whole mercantile body of this nation a wipe in the stomach. A good many little cubs, as well as a few ole bears, have been gobbled up by your confounded efforts at running up gold, while you grin and chuckle like the laughing hyena, when ransacking navy yards and whiskey distilleries. But, if you insist on going ahead and earning your daily peck by smashing things and laying out the unsophisticated, all I have got to say is, that next time you've got a sure thing to make a spec, by telegraphing me at Skenesborough, I won't mind coming down and taking a hand in, if my pocketing a few $100,000s will be the means of bettering your morals, by my sharing your burden. In conclusion, fellow citizens, feeling in rather a poetical mood today, I will close with the following tribute to Wall Street and its inhabitants. Imperious Caesar, dead, and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away, onless from Wall Street, was blowing raw. The tempestuous breezes, from a broker's floor. Amid tumultuous cheers, and a general rush into Delmonico's, where Wall Street waters her stock of liquors, I sat down. Yours, without a doubt, Hiram Green, Esquire, late Gusties of the Peace. Stage by play. A sporting paper gives the following item, 2 nines, composed of members of Boothers, Warlocks and the Olympic Theatrical Companies, played an interesting game of baseball at the Union Baseball Grounds, last week. Imagine Sir Harcourt Courtly batting splendidly to Diedrich Van Beekman's pitching, or picture Major de Boots waiting patiently on the shortstop for a chance to put Captain Absolute out on his second base. The experience of these gentlemen before the footlights may have made them light-footed, but from mere force of habit they are all pretty sure to be caught out in the flies. Professional. They may talk about nines, said the doctor, when baseball was the subject under discussion. They may talk about their nines, but I know of a 9 that would lay them all out in double quick time, and it is called strychnine. A feculent nuisance. Persons passing along Nassau Street, between Ann and Beekman Streets, for some days past, have had their olfactories unpleasantly assailed by a vile stench. On investigation by officers of the Board of Health, the foul odor was found to exhale from the premises of 113 Nassau Street. Further examination disclosed the fact that the nuisance arose from a quantity of dead rabbits deposited on the premises by one James O'Brien, for purposes best known to himself. It is said that the entire concern is to be handed over to the New York Rendering Company, for conversion into the kind of tallow used for the manufacture of the cheapest kind of rushlights. The greatest joke of the season. The idea of nominating James O'Brien for the office of mayor of the city of New York. But it cannot be called a practical joke. It was in the Champagne country that Louis Napoleon came to grief. The fizz of the champagne was too much for him, and he fizzled. Letter from a war correspondent. Punchinello as a savant. Mr. Punchinello, I have always taken a profound interest in science. When a child, my fond parents observed in me a decided taste for entomology, the wings and legs of butterflies and grasshoppers being the objects of my special investigation. As a schoolboy I obtained, despite the frequent closing of my visual organs, considerable insight into physical science in the course of numerous pugilistic encounters. A close application to optics at that time enabled me to get some light on the subject. I was quite a phenomenon in astronomy. While yet an unweaned infant, I made numerous observations on the Milky Way, and when learning to walk frequently saw stars undiscernible with the most powerful telescope. Since my arrival at man's estate, I have frequently experimented on the elasticity of the precious metals, but have generally found it extremely difficult to make both ends meet. Considering, therefore, that I had as just a claim to be called scientific, as many who pretend to be savants, I determined to attend the late scientific convention at Troy. My reception was most gratifying. On presenting my credentials to the convention, that learned body welcomed me with open arms, and I was escorted to a place among the members by its distinguished head. Some of the speculations of these eminent philosophers were exceedingly profound, and it is really wonderful, Mr. Punchinello, to what an extent theory may be carried in the advance of science. Mr. Goose felt read a learned and original paper, carefully compiled from various sources, on the steam engine, in the course of which he stated that his great-aunt, who had been blown up on the first steamboat that ever went down in the Mississippi, during the great earthquake of 1811, was still living. Also, that his godfather, the celebrated Mr. Nicodemus, assisted, probably in the interests of science, in pulling down the statue of George III in the Bowling Green. The importance of these two facts cannot be overestimated, as they will undoubtedly give a tremendous impulse to the wheels of science. Professor Graywack, the eminent geologist, delivered an address on natural petrifactions, indicating the various specimens of ancient fossils by which he was surrounded, and describing their formation. The audience was probably petrified with astonishment at the immense learning and research he displayed, for it observed a stony silence, only interrupted by an occasional snore. A brilliant paper on the illuminating power of gas was read by Professor M.T. Head. It was a most luminous production, and proved conclusively that an immense expenditure of gas sometimes throws very little light on any subject. The professor is thoroughly versed in meters, and is the author of the volume of gas which has attracted so much attention in the scientific world. Professor Soot addressed the scientists on the effect of tallow upon ides. From certain experiments made by him it appears that the oleaginous principle is incompatible with water, and unfavorable to the action of rust. A member was of the opinion that this important discovery might be turned to great practical advantage, as the application of cart grease to rusty iron axles might possibly facilitate the rotary motion of the wheels. This novel and valuable suggestion was hailed with shouts of applause, and the thanks of the convention were immediately voted to the distinguished member, whose name I have unfortunately forgotten. Professor Hydrage read an essay on the transit of Mercury, which he said would take place in the form of a bed precipitate in 1878. It may possibly take place before then, however, as the Faculty of Medicine are said to be rapidly abandoning the use of calomel. The state conchologist read an extremely interesting disquisition on the oyster, which was divided into sections and literally devoured by the audience. He also exhibited some specimens of conchs, which were regular sneezers in point of size. An announcement which was made by the distinguished astronomer, Professor Looney, created a most profound sensation. He stated that with the aid of a powerful telescope he had discovered an immense fissure in the Moon. He was quite positive that he had also observed a man in the gap. Although unable to distinguish the features of this individual, he thought it might possibly be James Stevens, the missing Fenian head center. When the excitement consequent upon this startling announcement had subsided, I rose and addressed the convention as follows: "Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot express, in words, the profound gratification with which I have listened to the learned and eloquent addresses which have just been delivered. The advancement of science is an object which is worthy the efforts of such distinguished savants as I see around me, and to this object they have brought that profundity of learning which is only to be gathered from the perusal of elementary textbooks, that almost strabismal acuteness of perception which enables them to descry such great scientific truths as can be discovered through an orifice in a barn door, and that wonderful power of discrimination which enables them to distinguish between the seed of the leguminous plant known as the bean, and the other vegetable productions of nature, when the bag is open. As an humble member of the Brotherhood of Science, I desire to contribute, in however insignificant a degree, to the great cause of learning. I will therefore, with your permission, read loud cries of no, no, put him out, etc., to which of course I paid no attention. The following papers: an inquiry as to whether diphtheria has anything to do with the migration of the swallow, on the possibility of straightening the curve of the African shin bone, on marine plants and deep-sea currents, on the laws of mechanics, with observations on the Mechanics-Leon law and the bylaws of trades unions. Some reflections on reflection. The connection between mathematics and versification, as illustrated by logarithms. Minute experiments with the hourglass and important speculations on the sea changes. I proceeded to read the first of the above-named papers, but before I had got very far, Mr. Punchinello, I was interrupted by a peculiar sound, which I at first took for subdued applause, but which, on investigation, I found proceeded from the noses of the audience. In short, Mr. P., both audience and convention were in a profound slumber. Considerably mortified, I withdrew in silence. I am determined, however, that my theses shall not be lost to posterity. I intend to have them published, and to send you a copy of each. Profoundly yours, Chinkapin. Pairing time. We learn that some of the pear trees in Suffolk County are now in blossom. Surely such a season as this one for pears has never before been seen. Who knows but the fact may induce Susan B. Anthony to go pairing with some revolutionary bachelor. A about o'clock advice to picnic parties, aerated verbiage, agricultural column, Our Albany Cock-Robins allurements of the period, all aboard for Holland, all hail American cutlery in France, answers to correspondence era, what does he mean, at all? Astronomical conversations, Associated Press telegrams, Augean job, and B. Ballad of Captain Eyre, The Bachelor's Moving Day, The Bad Odor in the West, Ballad of the Good Little Boy aged 10, Behold how pleasant a thing, and see beautiful snow, Bit of natural history, A Bird of Wisdom in Iowa, The Bingham on Rome, Blocks and Blockheads Book Notices, Boyhood Bowwow. Broad Brim to Aborigine Business by George C. Cause and Effect, Captain Hall. To Cable News, Caution Cats, on Card of Thanks, a chat about railroads, a chance for our organ grinders, a charge of the 9th Brigade Kinopathy China pattern, a chinkapin at Long Branch, chinkapin among the Free Lovers Church, militant Cincinnatus Sweeney, condensed Congress, Colonel Fisk's soliloquy, cons, by a wrecker comic zoology congressman to his critics, a consistent league, a coup d'etat, my correspondence bureau. Contemporary sentiments, conversion of the sun, cool, if not comfortable, colored troops have fought nobly. The criticism of the period, critical intelligence, Crispin vs. Cooley, current tables, cartoons, March 4, 1869, March 4, 1870. Our efficient Navy Department, the descent of the great Massachusetts frog upon the newspaper flies, the great national game, financial belief, the sick eagle, the financial inquisition, editorial, washing day in New York, the new plea for murder, international yachting, the wedding ring as Sorosis would like to see it, the blood money, what I know about farming, the wedding ring again, modern matrimony, Yankee versus Yankee, the new Pandora's box, Lucifer's little game with his royal puppets, death of the entente cordial, wonderful tour de force, the ovation of murder, law versus lawlessness, what will he do with it? At the Saratoga Convention, Humpty Dumpty D. Depressions for Chicago, delights of Dougherty, the desultory hints and maxims for anglers, distinguished visitor, a dog's, on dog's tail, a down the bay drainage under difficulties, dreadful state of things out west, the dubious English dwarf dejected, the earthly paradise, editorial, washing day, elevated statesmanship, England's quandary, episode of Jack Horner, excellent old song made new, an Excelsior F fable, ferocity of failure, the female gentleman. The 15th Amendment, finances, on the fish sauce, fine arts in Philadelphia, fiscalities, fish culture, fishery question. The financial article, Our Four Seasons, the 44 to 14 foreign correspondence, foam-free baths, the From an Anxious Mother to Her Daughter, fun and fingy gay young joker, a George Francis, the ubiquitous glimpses of fortune, gossip in a schoolhouse, good for something better, gravestones for sale, grants, blackbird pie, Greeley's aid to literary effort, Greeley on Bailey, Great Canal Enterprise, the Great African Tea Company, the Greek meeting, Greek habits of great men, Hamlet from a rural point, Hall and Hayes, H.G. and Terpsichore, hints for the family, high and low church, hints upon high art, hints to car conductors, hints for those who will take them, hints for the census, high notes by our musical critic Hiram Green at Saratoga, Hiram Green at the Tower of Babel, Hiram Green on the Chinese, Hiram Green experience as an editor, Hiram Green writes to Napoleon Hiram Green on Jersey Mosquitoes, Hiram Green at the Female Convention, Hiram Green on baseball, Hiram Green among the fat men, Hiram Green to Napoleon, Hiram Green in Wall Street, how a disciple of Fox became a lover of bull, horticultural hints, Holy Grail, and other poems. The homodeification Hyperborean idiomatic items important to publishers, Indian. The interesting to bone boilers, interior illumination, Indian question. The information wanted, inspiration versus perspiration, items from our rural reporters, J. Joys of Summer. The jottings from Washington jumbles, Jupiter Bellicosus, K. Kellogg testimonials. The King Oki, the first King Craft, looking up L. latest from Washington, latest news items, latest about Lo. Letter from a friend, letter of advice, a letter from a Japanese student, letter from a croaker. 11 of Leavenworth, literary vampire lines by a hapless swain, long shot, a lot on a lot of proverbs, love in a boarding house, Lucas Anon, etcm, mariners' wrongs, the marriage market in Rome, the main question in Massachusetts, marine mixture, a managers of railroads, to medical miss, a Methodist book concern. Concerning the Mercantile Library Association, mind your PS and QS, miseries of a handsome man, motley melody, a municipal competition, Murphy the Conqueror, mythology, of mystery of Mr. E. Drood. Mythology, further of mythology, more N. National Taxidermy, Napoleon's latest manifesto, natural mistake. A new conglomerate, pavement, New England to New York, new railway project, a new process. The 99 in the shade, nothing like leather, notaries protest, a 040, now we shall have it, notes from Chicago, now's your chance, note from the orchestra, ode to the missing collector, Old Bailey practitioner, an old boy to the young ones. An old saw's reset, old iron, olive, Logan, opinions of the press, orange peel, etc. Origin of the Mississippi, Orpheus Seeker, sketch of organizing an organ, origin of Punchinello, that our future out of the streets, our literary legate, our Cuban telegrams, our explosives, P. patriotic adoration, pat to the question, parable about the 12th of July, pardonable solicitude, perennius air, periodical literature, Philadelphing's plays and shows, please the pigs, plea for protection, pluckily patriotic, still poems of the cradle, popularity. Our political claptrap, police report, our possible why of it, the portfolio, our prospectus pump, the Punchinello's new charter, Punchinello in Wall Street. Punchinello's lyrics, Punchinello and the alderman, Punchinello on the jury, Punchinello is sorry, Punchinello's vacations, Punchinello as a savant, Q query, are raising Cain, rather mixed, rather flashy idea, a ramblings, real estate of women, the religious amusements, remonstrance, a religion of temperance, receipt to be tested, reform in juvenile literature, rejuvenated France, right and left, Robbins, the romaunt of the oyster rose by any other name, a roar from Niagara, a romance of a rich young man's sailing directions, and sea science forever, seasonable parody, a several unsavory renderings, ship ahoy. Sic semper e pluribus, and Cicerosian impromptu, a song of the returned soldier, song of the new Babel, song of the red cloud, song of the Chicago lawyer, song of the Mosquito Society, and C. Spencerian chaff, spiritual susceptibility of cats, spring fever, spirit of the Navy, standard literature, Strider, Pentium, summer on the Catskills, summer at Sandy Point, tea, taking a senator's measure, take care of the wounded, temperance song, that Indian talk, Thias, idle Thias, 13th man in the omnibus, Titans, tobacco. Parliament of Ohio. The To Our Readers Traveller's Tales treatment for potato bugs, truly noble, tutti tremando, Turkish bath, Myulus, to umbrella, the Uncle Samuel Universicdology, herbs in raw VVH, to Punchinello, visit to Sheridan's ride, voice from the hub, voice of the turtle, the vulture's call, the W wanted, a sheriff war, the what comes next, way to become great, the weather prophesies for May, Western nomenclature, what the press is expected to say, what I know about free trade, what I know about protection, what is it, what Cy Gerson says, what shall we call it? Why is it so dry? Women. Past and present, women's rights again, women in Wall Street, women in the census, women's right to ballot and bullet words, and there are bars, is wrong, mouth ringer of the future, YYMCA, T. Stewart and Company have opened an immense stock of silks, for street and evening dresses, at $2 per yard, recently sold at $4 and $5. A large line of striped silks, fresh goods, $1 to $1.50 per yard. Extraordinary bargains in black silks, from $1.25 per yard upward. Plain and plaid poplins, satins de chine, empress cloths, royal velvets, serges, etc. Customers, strangers, and the public are respectfully requested to examine Broadway, 4th Avenue, 9th and 10th Streets. Punchinello. The first number of this illustrated, humorous and satirical weekly paper was issued under date of the 2nd of April, 1870. The press and the public in every state and territory of the Union endorse it as the best paper of the kind ever published in America. Contents entirely original. Subscription for 1 year, with $2 premium, $4 6 months, without premium. 2.003 months. 1.00 single copies mailed free. 4. 10. We offer the following elegant premiums of L. Prang and Company's chromos for subscriptions as follows: a copy of paper for 1 year, and The Awakening, a litter of puppies. Half chromo. Size 8-3/8 by 11-1/8, $2 picture, $4 a copy of paper for 1 year and either of the following $3 chromos, Wild Roses. 12-1/8x9. Dead Game. 11-1/8x8-3/8. Easter Morning. 6-3/4x10-1/4, $5 a copy of paper for 1 year and either of the following $5 chromos, Group of Chickens, Group of Ducklings, Group of Quails. Each 10x12-1/8. The Poultry Yard. 10-1/8x14. The Barefoot Boy, Wild Fruit. Each 9-3/4x13. Pointer and Quail, Spaniel and Woodcock. 10x12, for $6.50 a copy of paper for 1 year and either of the following $6 chromos: The Baby in Trouble, The Unconscious Sleeper, The Two Friends, Dog and Child. Each 13x16-1/4. Spring, Summer, Autumn, 12-7/8x16-1/8. The Kids Playground. 11x17-1/2, for $7 a copy of paper for 1 year and either of the following $7.50 chromos: Strawberries and Baskets, Cherries and Baskets, Currants. Each 13x18. Horses in a Storm. 22-1/4x15-1/4. 6 Central Park Views. A set. 9-1/8x4-1/2, for $8 a copy of paper for 1 year and 6 American Landscapes. A set. 4-3/8x9, price $9.00, for $9 a copy of paper for 1 year and either of the following $10 chromos: Sunset in California. Bierstadt, 18-1/2x12 Easter Morning. 14x21. Correggio's Magdalene. 12-1/4x16-3/8. Summer Fruit and Autumn Fruit. Half chromos, 15-1/2x10-1/2. Companions, price $10 for the two. For $10 remittances should be made in PO orders, drafts, or bank checks on New York, or registered letters. The paper will be sent from the first number, April 2d, 1870, when not otherwise ordered. Postage of paper is payable at the office where received, 20 cents per year, or 5 cents per quarter, in advance. The chromos will be mailed free on receipt of money. Canvassers wanted, to whom liberal commissions will be given. For special terms address the company. The first 10 numbers will be sent to anyone desirous of seeing the paper before subscribing, for 60 cents. A specimen copy sent to anyone desirous of canvassing or getting up a club, on receipt of postage stamp. Address: Punchinello Publishing Co., P.O. Box 2783. Number 83 Nassau Street, New York. A.T. Stewart and Company have largely replenished all their popular stocks of dress goods, etc., with goods which for quality, style and prices, cannot be excelled, and respectfully request purchasers to examine the same. Broadway, 4th Avenue, 9th and 10th Streets. Extraordinary bargains in carpets. 100 pieces 5-frame English Brussels, reduced to $1.75 per yard. 200 pieces greater part confined styles, reduced to $2 per yard. Very best quality English tapestry Brussels $1.30 per yard. French moquettes and Axminsters $3.50 and $4 per yard. Royal Wiltons, best quality, $2.50 and $3 per yard. Crossley's Velvets, Choice Designs, $2.50 per yard. Superfin Ingrains, 3 plies. English and domestic oilcloths, rugs, mats, etc., at extremely low prices. A.T. Stewart and Company, Broadway, 4th Ave, 9th and 10th Streets. The Wife's Windfall. Smith, who had forgetfully left his pocketbook on the piano last night. Have you found anything this morning, Angelina? Angelina. Oh. Yes, dear, thanks, and I've ordered a new piano stool, some lace curtains, and such a love of a bonnet. The Printing House of the United States. G.O.F. Nesbitt & Co., General Job Printers, Blank Book Manufacturers, Stationers, Wholesale and Retail, Lithographic Engravers and Printers, Copperplate Engravers and Printers, Card Manufacturers, Envelope Manufacturers, Fine Cut and Color Printers. 163, 165, 167, and 169 Pearl St. 73, 75, 77, and 79 Pine St., New York. Advantages. All on the same premises, and under immediate supervision of the proprietors. Tourists and leisure travelers will be glad to learn that the Erie Railway Company has prepared combination excursion or round-trip tickets, valid during the entire season, and embracing Ithaca, headwaters of Cayuga Lake, Niagara Falls, Lake Ontario, the River St. Lawrence, Montreal, Quebec, Lake Champlain, Lake George, Saratoga, the White Mountains, and all principal points of interest in northern New York, the Canadas, and New England. Also similar tickets at reduced rates, through Lake Superior, enabling travelers to visit the celebrated Iron Mountains and copper mines of that region. By applying at the offices of the Erie Railway Company, numbers 241, 529 and 957 Broadway, 205 Chambers Street, 38 Greenwich Street, Cor. 125th St. and 3rd Avenue Harlem, 338 Fulton Street Brooklyn, depots foot of Chambers Street, and foot of 23rd Street, New York, number 3 Exchange Place and Long Dock Depot, Jersey City, and the agents at the principal hotels. Travelers can obtain just the ticket they desire, as well as all the necessary information. Prang's latest publications, Wildflowers, Waterlilies, Chas. Dickens. Prang's chromos sold in all art and bookstores throughout the world. Prang's illustrated catalogue sent free on receipt of stamp. L. Prang & Co., Boston. Punchinello. With a large and varied experience in the management and publication of a paper of the class herewith submitted, and with the still more positive advantage of an ample capital to justify the undertaking, the Punchinello Publishing Co. of the City of New York presents to the public for approval the new illustrated humorous and satirical weekly paper, Punchinello, the first number of which was issued under date of April 2, Original articles, suitable for the paper, and original designs, or suggestive ideas or sketches for illustrations, upon the topics of the day, are always acceptable and will be paid for liberally. Rejected communications cannot be returned, unless postage stamps are enclosed. Terms: 1 copy per year, in advance, $4 single copies. 10 a.m. specimen copy will be mailed free upon the receipt of 10 cents. 1 copy, with the Riverside magazine, or any other magazine or paper, price, $2.50, for 5.501 copy, with any magazine or paper, price, $4, for 7.00 all communications, remittances, etc., to be addressed to Punchinello Publishing Co., No. 83 Nassau Street, P.O. Box 2783, New York. The Mystery of Mr. E. Drood. The new burlesque serial, written expressly for Punchinello, by Orpheus C. Kerr, commenced in number 11. Will be continued weekly throughout the year. A sketch of the eminent author, written by his bosom friend, with superb illustrations of 1st the author's palatial residence at Bagad's Hill, Tickner's Fields, New Jersey. 2nd the author at the door of said palatial residence taken as he appears every Saturday will also be found in the same number. Single copies, for sale by all newsmen, or mailed from this office, free, 10 cents. Subscription for 1 year, 1 copy, with $2 chromo premium. $4. Those desirous of receiving the paper containing this new serial, which promises to be the best ever written by Orpheus C. Kerr, should subscribe now, to ensure its regular receipt weekly. We will send the first 10 numbers of Punchinello to anyone who wishes to see them, in view of subscribing, on the receipt of 60 cents. Address: Punchinello Publishing Company, P.O. Box 2783, 83 Nassau Street, New York. G.O. W. Wheat & Co., Printer, No. 8 Spruce Street. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook Punchinello, Volume 1, No. 26, the 24th of September, 1870. Updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116, 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks. Punchinello Volume 1. Number 26. Published by the Punchinello Publishing Company, 83 Nassau Street, New York. The full Project Gutenberg license,